Money, power, and notoriety are nice to have, but are they enough to guarantee safety? According to this gruesome story, not always. In this video, we'll take a look at what happened to three successful young people who set out into the wilderness. They didn't make it. Before they could even set foot on the Kamchatka Peninsula, their destination, everything went wrong. Their helicopter came crashing down. Their bodies were left to the bears. It was July 16, 2022, when Zoya Kaygorodova and her partner Sergei Kolesnyak set out for their adventure. Zoya was a successful Russian businesswoman, and a well-known one at that. Kolesnyak himself was also well acquainted with the world of Russian business. He was a mobile phone company executive at Tele2 Russia. The two of them were on vacation, and an expensive one at that. They were on a 9-day luxury tour of Kamchatka, an impressive peninsula in their homeland, Russia. Evidence suggests that Zoya was the one to plan the trip. The couple had paid over $5,000 for this high-end experience. The Russian rich and super rich were also affected by the war in Ukraine. Sure, not in the way regular people were, but they still saw a change in their lifestyle. If this amounts to anything, judge for yourself. What we do know is that many of them abandoned their usual traveling spots due to sanctions over the war. They had to adapt. Western Europe has always been a major attraction to rich Russians. Countries like France, Italy, and Spain are no stranger to hosting them. But obtaining visas for those places is harder than ever for Russians, no matter how rich they are and regardless of their stance on the war. Other destinations have become popular among the top percentage of Russians. Many of them switched their focus to the Maldives, Turkey, or Dubai. Many others chose to see the new political climate as an opportunity and explore their own country. In July 2022, Zoya Kaygorodova and Sergei Kolesnyak were among those who chose Russia as a vacation destination. The country is huge, and there's plenty to see, especially when it comes to wilderness. And Zoya and Sergei both seemed interested in discovering nature. Pictures on their social media showed the two enjoying time out and about. One particular photo of Zoya shows the woman in the middle of a forest petting a chained tiger. In another photo, Sergei is seen taking a stroll in what seems to be another green forest. The couple chose the Kamchatka Peninsula as their destination. Kamchatka is old and so wildly varied that it has become known as the land of fire and ice. You could form a pretty good idea of what the place looks like by that title alone. You wouldn't be too far off if you assume the peninsula looks like something that came straight out of Game of Thrones. Kamchatka is located in far eastern Russia, so it's geographically closer to Alaska than to Moscow. It's bordered by the Sea of Okhotsk to the west and by the Pacific Ocean to the east. The peninsula has a population of about 322,000 people in an area of some 100,000 square miles. Summers there are cold, and winters are endless, harsh, and snowy. Snow covers the land from October to late May. When it comes to scenery, the peninsula is simply breathtaking. There are multiple volcanoes, more than 20 of which are still active. Earthquakes and tsunamis are common in the peninsula, but there are also more enjoyable natural occurrences, such as thermal and mineral springs. Nature enthusiasts love the place, but the impressive scenery isn't the only thing that occupies the land. The wildlife there is abundant and luxurious in its own right. Grasses and flowers are as common as huge forests of alder or pine, and there are plenty of wild, majestic animals. Among these hundreds of species, though, brown bears are kings. Kamchatka is famous for its huge brown bear population. Some sources claim that there are between 10,000 and 14,000 Kamchatka bears in the region. Others claim the number is much higher and that over 27,000 bears have their homes on the peninsula. The point is that regardless of the exact number, there are many, many bears roaming the land, and Kamchatka bears were the ones to make this already chilling story an even more gruesome one. On July 16, 2022, Zoya Kaygorodova and Sergei Kolesnyak embarked on a helicopter which was meant to take them on a tour of the Kamchatka Peninsula. The helicopter was called Nadezhda, which means hope, and it was a young hope of the Russian sports star piloting the helicopter. Igor Malinovsky was 25 and a five-time junior world champion in biathlon. Like many other athletes, Igor's career had been stalled by the pandemic and the war. So the man took the opportunity to start focus on another one of his interests, flying. His father was a pilot and the owner of a small air company which focused on showing tourists the natural wonders of Kamchatka. Igor and his family lived on the peninsula. The man started helping his father, essentially working as a pilot. The three of them, the pilot and tourists alike, started their journey up into the air. But the conditions weren't exactly perfect for a flying trip to the peninsula. Instead, the clouds were threatening, and the weather was just plain bad. Still, the helicopter took off, and as it turned out, this decision was fatal. All three people inside were doomed. The Robinson aircraft braved the bad weather, making its way above the peninsula. But then, things took a turn for the worse. The helicopter disappeared from radar, and all communication was lost during the flight. Perhaps the three people inside realized the situation was about to turn tragic. Perhaps the 25-year-old pilot tried his best to pilot the helicopter back to safety, but the flying conditions were simply too bad. Soon enough, the helicopter came crashing down, plummeting toward the Kamchatka Peninsula. Upon impact, the helicopter, ironically named Hope, caught fire. None of the people inside the aircraft survived. Zoya Kaygorodova, Sergei Kolesnyak, and Igor Malinovsky all died on impact. The Kamchatka Peninsula, as you know by now, teems with brown bears. Kamchatka brown bears usually measure 8 to 10 feet tall and weigh over 1,400 pounds. They usually feed on berries and salmon, but famished animals aren't choosing beggars. They eat what they can get. And in this case, as gruesome and horrible as it sounds, they saw an opportunity in the helicopter crash. Soon enough, the site of the crash was discovered by several such hungry Kamchatka brown bears. The animals searched the mangled metal and reached the three already dead bodies. The bears then dragged the bodies away from the wreckage, and then they fed. The helicopter was set to arrive at the village of Milkovo. A search began as soon as it was obvious something had gone terribly wrong. Rescuers found the helicopter a day later, on July 17, 2022. The ground around the aircraft was scorched, and the passengers were missing. It wasn't hard to put two and two together. 3 hours after the crash scene was discovered, rescuers were able to spot the remains of the three victims from the air. The bodies were partially devoured. They were located about 8 miles from one of the peninsula's many volcanoes. A criminal investigation was started, although there weren't any statements about the reasons that might have led to it. Bad weather was largely blamed for the crash. Some sources claimed it couldn't be determined whether the three victims were already dead when the bears found them and dragged them away from the crash site. But it was ultimately declared that they died on impact. The accident deeply affected those who knew the three victims. The world of Russian sport also mourned the loss of Igor Malinovsky, who was considered stronger than any of his peers in biathlon. No one is safe from the sometimes gruesome surprises destiny has in store. Sure, being rich can provide possibilities that some of us can't even dream about, but often enough, when it comes to fate, riches might as well be rags.